Our main character aimed to master martial arts, but he realized that it was a dream beyond his grasp, no matter how hard he worked. Still, his determination drove him to pursue a legendary path. It was handed down through the years. Legend has it that a golden fruit was hidden in a sacred place, protected by a dragon. This fruit is believed to offer eternal life, and after a tough, hard-won fight with the dragon, our main character finally reached the golden fruit. He was amazed to discover that the fruit was real, and he perched on the dragon's remains like a true victor before deciding to take a bite. He believed that eating the fruit would help him achieve his goal, the height of martial arts. Our main character, Gylfis Draken, was known as the mightiest in the world. Years later, Gylfis has aged and lies on his deathbed. His family gathers around him, with his eldest child sitting by his side. Son Cairo. Gylfis sees that his son appears downcast, and he encourages him to behave well, mentioning that his moment has arrived. Cairo feels heartbroken knowing he is about to lose his father like he lost his mother. As his father nears the end, Gylfis reflects on the immortality fruit and understands it was nothing but a silly idea. He finds comfort in having a loving wife and kids. He shares with them that he lived a fulfilling life and feels no regrets. But deep down, he knew this was a total lie. Gylfis really wished he had more time to master martial arts. A few moments later, he dies, but then he unexpectedly opens his eyes again. He is taken aback and questions why everything seems so changed. He feels a lightness in his body, and as he glances around, he notices his tiny hands. That's when it hits him. He's a baby lying in a crib. He could hardly believe what he was seeing, but he took a deep breath to steady himself, remembering he was a 10-star in his previous life. Gylfis realizes that his situation is far from normal, and he begins to question who might be responsible. Then, it hits him that the fruit he thought granted him immortality wasn't what it seemed. The fruit granted the ability to be reborn, not to live forever, just as he had thought before. This realization brings a smile to his face, as he sees it as a stroke of good fortune. He feels that this is his chance to finally master martial arts. He observes that there are, surrounded by other infants, and realizing he is in a different building, he concludes that he must have been born again into the Draken family. Yet, he begins to question why there are so many babies in the space. At that moment, the maids walked in with bottles. They approached a crib and picked up a baby goblin to give it some food. Gylfis is taken aback when he spots a goblin in the room, curious about the maid's intentions. After giving the goblin a red liquid, it suddenly bursts apart. Blood splatters on a Gylfis face. He stares in disbelief, a wave of fear washing over him as he struggles to understand what's in the bottle. The maids choose to water it down and keep serving it to the children. Meanwhile, a maid catches Gylfis as he wonders what they fed the goblin that made it blow up. He can easily tell that what's in the bottle isn't milk. It looks like it's brimming with enchantment. He can hardly believe the maids are giving babies something so risky. The maid forces the bottle into his mouth, and as he tastes what's inside, Gylfis suddenly understands that it's the blood of an ancient dragon. He can't wrap his head around how crazy they are for having kids and drinking dragon's blood. He finally understands why they mentioned diluting it. He thinks he should spit it out, but then recalls that he has already swallowed a bit. He decides that a small bit won't harm him. He realizes this. The other babies are also ejecting the stuff, and he thinks this is the right choice for him before he bursts. Suddenly, it hits him that he could be wrong about spitting it out. He understands that by taking in all the magic energy, he could outdo his former self, finally achieve the highest level in martial arts. He's completely lost about what's happening, but he chooses to make the most of it. He gulps down the contents of the bottle, wearing a fierce expression that says he won't be messed with. The maid is surprised to see Gylfis happily drinking the dragon's blood being offered to him. She feels pleased that everything is going well for them. Once he finishes the whole bottle, he is put back in his crib and notices that the other babies have made it through too. Like any normal baby, he begins to feel drowsy after a satisfying meal. Fast forward 7 years, and Gylfis is now seen honing his skills. He boosts his strength by balancing a heavy rock on his feet while performing a one-handed push-up. He completes 1,000 push-ups before tossing the boulder far away. He looks at his frozen body and realizes he loves it. It seems Gilphus is now called Kale Draken. Kale believes that his incredible strength comes from the dragon blood he drank. This blood appears to be packed with power, and even the young ones who had just a small taste developed strong bodies. Kale was more powerful than ordinary people because he had absorbed the true source of the divine dragon's strength in his previous life. He could harness every bit of the ancient dragon's special energy. Kale underwent a change that surprised even him. Still, he realized he remained a one-star warrior, which left him feeling let down, as he expected to be at least a 4-star. A star is essentially the core of your strength, pushed to its maximum. Imagine your body as a universe, where stars dance inside. It becomes harder with each star, as more stars mean more power. In his previous life, Kale achieved a 10-star rank, making him the first person in history to accomplish this feat. Kale is now 7 years old, the son of the current leader of the Draken family, but he was born out of wedlock. His mother has passed away, and his father has never been present in his life. Kale is shocked to have such a terrible father. It seems he was reborn 1,000 years later, in a world where the weak are easily overpowered by the strong. There's an unusual ceremony called the Dragon's Trial. Only infants who manage to drink the blood are meant to become Draken warriors, but Kale hasn't had any training from anyone. He asks the maid a few questions, but she just replies that she can't share that information. Kale expresses his frustration to the maid, pointing out that those who complete the trial are meant to receive combat training. Instead, he finds himself surrounded by maids with no instructors around. The maid takes action. She approaches Kale like a doll, inquiring if he needs anything, but he replies that he doesn't. In truth, Kale is more interested in strengthening his body than in combat training right now. Kale asks the maid if she can share anything about the other kids in the main family, but she responds that she can't disclose that information. Kale attempts to maneuver for a response, but the maid stands firm. Frustrated, Kale feels angry. Kale questions whether this is all the maid can express. He then inquires if he's at the house to be treated poorly, but the maid clarifies that they are instructed to take care of his needs. Kale sees that the maid is a skilled fighter with 3 stars, and she offers to assist him with his combat training. With the maid not being much help, Kale thinks it's time to venture into the forest. He can't believe he spent 3 years living with a maid without any real connection. Kale looks for a response, but the maid doesn't answer and appears to be avoiding him. Kale steps into the woods and munches on some toxic plants that taste terrible. Still, he doesn't mind because he sees it as part of his training. Out of nowhere, he sees a slight path behind him. He starts to think about why someone would be following him without saying a word. He pays no attention to anyone else and concentrates on what's ahead. Out of nowhere, he spots an angry boar right in front of him. He realizes that the dark fog following him wasn't part of his previous life, making him curious about what it could be. Still, Kale steps forward to face the boar, just as the name suggests. It rushes at Kale. He smiles, knowing the boar is focused on him. Kale positions himself just right to swiftly avoid the boar, and when the animal is fully exposed, he delivers a powerful punch to its belly. The blow is so strong that it crushes the boar's insides and takes it down in one hit. Kale is amazed that a gentle tap from him, a 1-star, could bring down the boar. He realizes that it's the quality of the star that counts, not how many there are. Kale lifts the boar onto his shoulder and starts walking home. He shares how he's feeling worn out from being by himself and considers going on an adventure. He understands that the sea is the only destination available to him, no matter where he wishes to go. The guy following Kale is stunned that he knocked out a boar with just 1 punch, especially since he's never had any fighting lessons. On top of that, he's amazed that Kale even saw it happen. He was in hiding. He ultimately decides that Kale is not like other kids. After his mother passed away when he was young and his father showed no care for him, he believes that Kale couldn't have gotten a decent education. But he isn't permitted to think that way. He wants to escape because he is the family leader's child, which means he is always being watched. The odd guy notices that things are becoming quite intriguing at every twist and turn. Kale gets back home and sees that there are guests at the house. He feels the power of the newcomers and questions their intentions. Moving closer to the door, he listens in on their talk and picks up on their energy, realizing they mean no harm. He finally unlocks the door and steps inside, spotting a few men in the room. He inquires about their purpose for being there and sees the Eldragon symbol on their outfits. This makes him even more curious, and he starts to think about what the men might want from him. Suddenly, the men inform him that they are there to take him for a checkup. Kale nearly goes crazy when he finds out about the surprise test, as nobody mentioned it to him. Shortly after, he is brought to the main house. He never thought he would return after being gone for 1,000 years. Kale is now wearing a school uniform provided by the men who arrived at the house. He was taken to the main house not for comfort, but to join the academy called Dragon's Nest. The Draken family founded this academy, and every family member aspires to join it. At the age of 7, they all begin their education, and today marks the entrance day. Kale never had any schooling to begin with. Kale has to take the exam because it's required, which is why he was brought from his spot in the woods. This situation is really bothering him. Everything weighs heavily on him, making him lower his head in sorrow. As the other students pass by, one of them with blue hair, named Thorn, comes over to him. Thorn hails from the old village and checks in on Kale, wondering if he's okay or facing any issues. Kale glances back at him and, with a sharp tone, demands to know what he wants. Thorn seems shy when he tells Kale he was just trying to help because Kale looks upset. Kale is taken aback by Thorn's gesture. He feels that he is naturally shy, yet he realizes there's a certain strength within him. Kale stands up and says sorry for being impolite. He introduces himself and tells Thorn that he is simply puzzled about what the family leaders are intending to do. Thorn responds by saying the exam material stays the same each year. But Kale sets things straight, telling Thorn that he really has no idea what the exam covers. Thorn is taken aback when he sees that the guy in front of him has no clue what he's talking about. He starts to worry about Kale, unsure if he'll be okay since he's completely unprepared for what's ahead in the exam. Thorn chooses to explain things to Kale. Just as he's about to begin, someone makes fun of him for being short in front of the crowd. He mocks, making the other bullies chuckle. Even Kale feels uncomfortable as he sees what's happening, not knowing how to step in. Thorn questioned him about why someone like him would show up for the exam instead of going home to have fun. As Thorn missed the disc again, he answered that he was there for the exam, which only made Varric yell at him. Varric tells Thorn he's worthless and that someone like him will never make it into the academy. He keeps mocking Kale, reminding him that his dad is a fake dragon. Kale sees that Thorn is angry. He can tell by the way his fist is tightly closed. The Draken family has a clear structure led by a supreme ruler. The newcomers are called lesser dragons, while the regular fighters are referred to as young dragons. And there's also a captain level. The adult dragons hold the highest rank. At the peak are the elders, also called the elder dragons, who represent the leadership class. At the lowest level, there's a space set aside for garbage, and it's inhabited by the mock dragons. The mock dragons are those who don't make it into the dragon's nest or who can't finish their studies at the academy are often called fakes. However, Thorn is determined to show that people like him are real and genuine. Kale jumps into the chat and asks Varric how he can say Thorn is no good when he hasn't even taken the test. Varric is taken aback by Kale stepping in. He asks Kale who he is and if there's an issue. Kale responds that he's fine, but he's just curious. Varric believes that Thorn can never get into the academy because he sees people like Thorn as weak. Kale is taken aback by the news and tells Varric that Thorn is tougher than him in his group of misfits. Varric gets annoyed and questions Kale if he thinks they are less important than someone like Thorn. Just as tensions rise, an examiner arrives to announce that the entrance exam is about to start. He informs the applicants that they need to choose a number tag after they sign up. Varric glares at Kale with intense dislike, vowing to never forget his face. Kale is taken aback by Varric's anger and wonders why young people today seem so easily upset, easily irritated. Thorn is taken aback when Kale mentions this, as they are all the same age. Thorn points out that anyone would be upset if someone called them weak. Kale then inquires whether the exam is required, but Thorn replies that he has the choice to take it. He should back out if he feels he can't take part. This surprises Kale, but it only shows Thorn that Kale is clueless. Thorn suggests that Kale step back because he could get injured during the test. Thorn realizes that Kale has no plans to back down. He is taken aback by Kale's confidence, especially since he doesn't know what the exam entails. Kale proposes that they hurry up before the test starts. Soon, All the candidates are assembled. The examiner stands before them to explain the exam details. He informs them that all they have to do is make a mark on the rock in front of them to succeed. Only the weapons given by the examiners can be used. To add some excitement, participants can also use their bare hands if they can leave a mark on the rock. The examiner announces that everyone has 3 tries, but Kale doesn't view this as a tough test. Thorn is shocked by this news, while Kale is curious about the surprise, thinking they just have to make a mark on the rock. Kale was already bracing for a wild test because of the trial ahead. They are allowed to proceed after drinking dragon blood, but Kale feels let down by what he observes. The examiner then instructs everyone to start the test. The first person steps up to the rock and strikes it with all his strength, but his sword breaks, creating a loud noise that startles everyone around. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't make a mark on the rock. The boy fell to the ground in agony, and the examiners inquired if he was okay. He wants to use his last 2 chances, but the pain is too much for him. They call a forfeit and take him away. Kale sees that Thorn is acting strangely and starts to wonder why, especially since the test seems to be simple. Kale asks Thorn about the rock. Thorn explains that it's known as the regeneration stone, which can quickly fix any small scratch. It can also show damage that is 100 times greater if hit with strong force. Kale thinks the rock is quite impressive. Thorn adds that if someone manages their inner ether energy well, they can actually leave a mark on it. After hearing that, Kale realizes it's all about managing the ether source power correctly, not just about a person's martial arts ability. Kale looks at the candidates and realizes that many of them seem likely to succeed in the exam. He sees that Varek and his crew are tough enough to make it through the test. From his spot, he can hear the candidates failing one by one, their arms breaking as they struggle to make a mark on the stone. Suddenly, the examiner announces number 315, which belongs to Kale. Thorn worries about Kale and tells him to back out, but Kale confidently replies that he will be okay. Kale approaches, and as the examiner looks at him, he feels a strong energy and presence radiating from Kale. Kale is given the option to choose a weapon, but he responds that he doesn't need one because he intends to fight with just his hands. The examiner checks again, asking if he's sure he doesn't want a weapon, and Kale confirms that he is sure. He tells the man that his hands can handle it. When the other students hear this, they laugh at him, claiming there's no chance he can leave a mark on the rock using just his fists. Even Thorn doubts it. Kale truly thinks his arms and fists could be torn off. Thorn begins to feel guilty, thinking he should have prevented Kale from taking the exam. The examiner points out that Kale has already made his choice. Kale takes a look at the rock and realizes it's made of a mineral he's never encountered before. He comes to the realization that it took 1,000 years to develop. He understands there is still much he has yet to learn, but he chooses to move them all into the future. Kale energizes himself, prepared to strike the rock. He thinks the energy he produces is strong enough to achieve his goals with the rock. His favorite method is known as the Dragon Slayer combat technique form. A vivid yellow glow surrounds his body and arm as he strikes the rock. The impact breaks the top of the rock, creating a loud sound and a puff of dust. Everyone is taken aback, but as others shut their eyes, the examiner keeps theirs wide open, making it seem important. Kale breathes a sigh of relief, yet realizes that the method is a bit too complex for him at this stage in his life. He looks at his arm and sees it's bleeding, and his uniform is torn. Rather than feeling proud for smashing the rock, Kale realizes his training still falls short. The other students are curious about how he managed it. Meanwhile, Varek is simply frustrated that Kale was able to break it. Thorn is stunned, his mouth hanging open, because Kale is the last person he thought would ace the exam. The examiner thinks what he just saw is unbelievable, since only someone with a 4-star rank or above should have been able to break the regeneration. Because Kale is a child born out of wedlock, the examiner questions whether he might have gained the family's abilities. The examiner also realizes that he has witnessed the move Kale performed before. Kale approaches the examiner and asks how he did on the test. The examiner informs him that he has passed and hands him a bottle filled with a green liquid. Kale inquires about what's inside, but the junior examiner glares at him with disdain and tells him to back off. Kale thinks the bottle is a prize for acing the test. He goes back to his new friend, and Thorn compliments him on his impressive performance. Kale asks Thorn about the bottle, and Thorn shares that it contains a healing potion. Kale feels puzzled by what he hears, and Thorn points out that it's just a basic healing potion. Kale takes another look and sees that the liquid doesn't seem toxic. He begins to think that the healing potion could really be an elixir. An elixir is a special potion made from rare ingredients mixed with herbs that only grow in hidden places. Furthermore, pure elixir cores from divine and phantom creatures are included. Consuming the potion quickly mends both old and new injuries and enhances one's energy. However, creating the potion is quite challenging because its components are hard to locate. That's why it seldom shows up for sale. Kale drinks the healing potion, and as he hoped, his injured arms start to mend. He is amazed and understands that the potion is actually an elixir. Thorn admits he doesn't know what an elixir is. However, he believes that Draken healing potions are far superior to those sold in shops. Thorn thinks this is just how things are, but Kale is completely amazed because all his wounds healed in an instant. Still, he realizes there's no surge of ether. It's like when he drinks a potion. Thorn then tells Kale that he's really remarkable, but Kale doubts it. Kale examines the bottle and understands that it represents what humanity has built over the past 1,000 years. Then he tells Kale that he's quite strong, and Kale responds that he wants to be the strongest, so it doesn't surprise him. Varek and his group of bullies then come up to take their test, and they all succeed. Kale isn't shocked by this. He already knows they will succeed. At last, applicant 414 is up, and it's Thorn. As he descends the stairs, Kale sees that Thorn is anxious, so he encourages him to steady himself, promising that he will be fine. Thorn spins around and tells Kale to quit setting the standards so high. When Thorn arrives at the testing area, he grabs a sword, making Kale curious about what he's up to. Thorn inhales deeply and throws his sword. He hits the rock, but doesn't budge, and he ends up tumbling down. As always, the examiner informs him that he has 2 more attempts. Thorn stands up once more to give it another shot, but the outcome is still unchanged. He collapses on the ground, crying, afraid he might fail just like his bully said he would. As he feared, Varek and the others are already mocking him, claiming the child of a half-dragon will always be just that. They pressure him to quit, reminding Kale that he once claimed someone as weak as Thorn is actually stronger than they. The examiner informs Thorn that he has one final chance. They ask if he wants to give it another go, and as he begins to stumble, he starts to stutter. Suddenly, everything goes pitch black. Out of the shadows, Kale's voice breaks the silence, asking what he's up to. Thorn spins around, puzzled, and Kale recommends he try a spear instead of sword. Thorn remains baffled by this, and Kale continues. He stands by his words. Kale scolds Thorn for choosing a weapon that isn't right for him. Kale tells him that no matter how hard he tries, he won't be able to chip the rock with a sword. Varek and his buddies burst into laughter at Kale. Thorn learned to wield a sword as a child and never trained with a spear. They think that even if he changes his weapon, he will still be the same disappointing person. Kale asks the examiner if it's okay to switch weapons during the test. The examiner tells Kale that it's perfectly fine to proceed. Kale grins at Thorn and encourages him to go ahead and use a spear. Kale, acting as a true motivational speaker, challenges Thorn, asking if he's ready to walk away like a loser. Thorn firmly replies no. Thorn stands up and tells Kale he will follow his advice and give a spear a shot. It turns out Thorn's father was never permitted to enter the dragon's nest, and always bothered him. Facing ridicule, he never lost hope and remained committed to raising his son right. Thanks to all that his father did for him, Thorn is eager to show that he is genuine. He recalls Kale's promise to do the same. He always gets the same outcome, no matter how often he swings the sword. He hasn't known Kale for very long, but he's decided to trust him. He isn't sure how to handle the spear, but Kale advises him to simply push it forward. He encourages him not to overthink it and just go for it. Thorn understands that a beginner with a spear can't easily strike the regeneration stone, but he won't know for sure unless he gives it a shot. Despite just meeting Kale, he decides to put his trust in him. Because Kale has faith in him, Thorn wants to feel that way too. He finds his position and realizes that the energy from the ether coursing through him feels different now compared to when he was wielding a sword. Thorn dashes toward the rock and strikes it, creating a huge shockwave. Varek and his group of bullies burst into laughter, claiming there was no change, even though Thorn switched his weapon. But when they looked more closely, they saw that Thorn had actually succeeded. Everyone is stunned by the sight, and even the examiner can't believe Thorn really drove the spear into the stone. Kale feels proud of Thorn and cheers for him. Thorn can hardly believe it when the examiner writes in his book that he has successfully passed the test. Thorn has to ask once more to be sure, but Kale wraps his arms around him from behind, promising that he really did it. Overcome with joy and tears in his eyes, Thorn embraces Kale tightly. Varek and his friends can't accept that Thorn really passed the test. They all think it was just a lucky break. The examiner suddenly shouts loudly, announcing that the test has finished and the entrance ceremony is about to begin. Kale is taken aback by this news. He can't believe that just scratching the rock is the only challenge they have to face. Thorn then informs Kale that there could be another test once they get into the academy. Kale asks Thorn what they should do now that they've already completed the test. Thorn explains that the leaders of the Draken family will arrive to congratulate the participants. Suddenly, a group of aura-harvesting men shows up in the distance, heading toward the students. Before anything else can happen, Thorn jumps in, cautioning Kale to be careful with his words. Thorn puts his hand over his mouth. He pleads with Kale to stay silent and not speak up. Despite the difficulty, Kale chooses to remain quiet. Kale watches the men known as the Draken's troops. He feels a sense of admiration. There are a few good guys around, mostly rated 6 stars, but the family leader, Balsa Draken, stands out as an 8-star warrior, making him quite impressive. In his day, there were only a handful of 8 stars in the world, and Kale wonders how many will remain. He then shares his thoughts with Thorn. He tells him straight out that he dislikes Balsa. He doesn't even care if the guy is his dad or not. At that moment, Balsa strides confidently to the front, radiating a powerful presence as she speaks to the students. He speaks briefly to the students, urging them to embody the essence of the Draken. Yet his words are heavy, and his presence is powerful, causing all the students, except Kale, to shake with apprehension. Thorn struggles to catch his breath, yet Kale feels nothing when Balsa is around. The only emotion Kale has for Balsa is deep hatred, though he can't explain why. Once he finishes speaking to the student, Balsa turns to walk away. Another elder steps in, informing the students that the head of the house has high hopes for them. Kale notices the blonde-haired elder as well and begins to question who they are. He realizes that Balsa leaving has eased some of the stress among the students, but they still maintain their calmness from the impact of Balsa's presence. The examiner moves ahead to say that they will announce the dorm assignments. Kale is taken aback by the news. He believed they were all headed to the same destination. So, Thorn chose to explain things to him, knowing he was completely in the dark. He informs him that the academy has 4 dormitories. Students are placed in one of these dorms: east, west, north, or south. Kale suddenly hears his name and gets up to go. He tells his new friend to stay safe, and they share a few friendly words before he departs. Kale is placed in the east dorm of the academy and is amazed at how much has transformed in 1,000 years. He uses the instructions on the note he holds to find his way to his room. He fears his roommate will be upset about him coming home late, and it all happened because he lost his way. He reaches the door and, full of excitement, swings it open to announce himself and welcome his new roommate. But his joy quickly fades when he sees who it is. Kale can't believe his roommate is Thorn. When he sees the boy, he feels an odd bond with him that he can't quite explain. Thorn grins and nods in agreement, sharing that he's been feeling a bit lonely. Kale then inquires if there's any plan for the day, to which Thorn replies that there isn't one. They were told to relax because their training starts tomorrow. Kale is unaware of this because he wasn't focused at all. Orientation meeting. He seems cheerful while sharing this, but Thorn believes it's not something to take pride in. Thorn chooses to overlook the scolding and proposes they get some rest, as they have training scheduled for the following day. Kale had thought about leaving school to explore, but he found the new experiences there intriguing. Now, he's chosen to stay with the school for a while longer. We'll assist him in discovering more about the world after 1,000 years. A month later, the children are in rigorous training with their teacher. They are learning to control the dragon's breath, a skill created by the 15th leader of House Draken. The instructor explains that they must perfect this technique to apply it in any circumstance. The tutor walks around, watching the children closely. He sees that a few of them have really gotten the hang of it, including Mira, the leader of the group. Daughter. It seems she has become talented enough to be recognized as a second star. He is more focused on Kale. While others are having a tough time, Kale is effortlessly balancing a boulder on his head and lifting 2 small dumbbells. There are boulders on them as well. The tutor begins to realize that Kale has taken on the head's abilities. He questions how he manages to excel at everything without a teacher to guide him. The teacher can only ponder this mystery, unable to find an answer. Meanwhile, Kale reflects on how his breathing method, the Dragon King's breath, has evolved into what is now known as Dragon's Breath. It seems that breathing techniques are ways to harness energy. Breathe in the ether from the air and share it within yourself, which helps to improve the ether overall. The best results vary based on the person's talent and imagination. This is why every noble house develops its unique style and protects its perfected methods. Kale acknowledges that the method is safe and simple to grasp, but he feels it's pointless if he can only apply it while stationary. Essentially, his original approach lets him use ether while on the move. The impact of the method is significant, but only a handful have mastered it due to its complexity. Kale made it easy to use so everyone could help strengthen the clan, but he never imagined it would grow and last for another 1,000 years. Kale is amazed by this and thinks there could be other martial arts moves that have evolved over the years as well. After their training, the kids go to the dining hall for a meal. While others are battling fatigue to get a meal, Kale happily enjoys his food without a worry. He sees that Thorn looks tired and encourages him to eat, reminding him that he won't perform well if he runs low on energy. Thorn can't help but ask Kale how he stays so energized while everyone else feels worn out. Kale mocks Thorn, calling him a weakling. He encourages him to eat better and work out more. As Kale teaches Thorn, he sees that some of the well-trained kids are actually eating their meal. At that moment, Mira walks up to Kale, and since he doesn't recognize her, he bluntly asks her name. Thorn nearly spits out his food in surprise and hurriedly leans over to whisper to Kale. He leans in and whispers to him that Mira is the chief's daughter, but Kale, unaware, replies to Thorn that he didn't know that at all. Thorn feels overwhelmed as he warns Kale that they shouldn't be speaking to Mira. Kale looks at him blankly and reminds him that he is also the head son, despite being born out of wedlock. Thorn and Mira are both taken aback by the news, and Mira questions him about the truth of his words. Kale responds calmly, saying he has no reason to be dishonest. Mira asks him how he got strong enough to break a regeneration stone with his hand. Mira is really curious, but Kale simply says he did it because he's just a cool guy. Kale sees that Thorn is completely distracted, so he brings him back to focus and tells him to eat his meal. Mira steps nearer to Kale and asks if he wants to be with her. Kale looks puzzled, so Mira makes it clear, encouraging him to be hers. Mira informs Kale that she plans to support him because he is an illegitimate child, and he will surely need friends. Mira is asking Kale for help to become the next leader, and she promises to give him a big reward once she takes charge of the family. She flatters him, but Kale coolly replies that he's not interested in her proposal. When Mira hears this, she thinks Kale must want to take charge of the family, which is why he declined. Kale watches as she dismisses the proposal, her words flowing out in a messy stream. He notices that she is close to shining like 2 stars, which he finds quite remarkable for someone her age. Kale finally speaks up and tells the girl she can do as she wishes since he doesn't care about family matters. Mira is taken aback by his words and presses him further, asking what he truly desires. Kale is furious and slams his knife down on the table, showing just how much anger he's holding inside. He tells Mira that he doesn't want to help anyone. Kale insists he prefers to be by himself because he knows he's the toughest. Mira senses the weight of Kale's presence, leaving her completely stunned. She can't believe that Kale's vibe is really making her feel scared. Kale keeps eating his meal as Mira works to ease the tension. Mira suddenly snaps and dares Kale to a fight. Kale is taken aback. He doesn't back down from a challenge. Soon, word got around the students that Mira was set to duel at the training grounds. The students hurry to see the fight, and while Mira is panicking, Kale is staying relaxed. Mira attempts to remind Kale that he's about to face him in a fight, but Kale responds that he doesn't know who Mira is. Kale then observes that Mira is behaving in a formal way and questions him about it. Well, smart one, that's because you are the son of the leader, Mira explains. Kale asks Mira what he needs from him. He attempts to clarify what's going on. He claims that Mira is Asher's daughter and has Fuyumi blood, linking her to one of the 4 major houses that support Draken. Mira believes she's a genius for mastering all the sword styles from House Fuyumi. Kale casually replies that the only thing he knows for sure is that she is Asher's daughter. Kale bursts into laughter, claiming that the mystery makes everything even more exciting. He sees it as an exciting twist, but Mira warns him that he has no chance of beating her. Mira then questions him about his reasons. Kale took on the challenge right from the start, and he believes it's clear that he's supposed to agree if someone asks him to fight. He also looks at Mira and realizes she seems prepared for the duel. Mira shouts at Kale to be quiet, her sword planted firmly in the ground like a true warrior. She asks him if he's prepared to learn some proper manners. With both of them geared up for a fight, Thorn steps out of the arena to give them space. Thorn warns Kale to watch out as he flees. With just the 2 of them, Kale questions Mira about her fierce determination to battle him. Mira responds that her goal is to become the next leader of the house, and to achieve that, she plans to beat Kale and have him work for her. Kale is taken aback by what he hears and begins to question how it all relates to him. Mira is taken aback by Kale's calm demeanor and asks if he is unaware of the truth about his family. Kale is ready to share that he knows something about Mira, but she interrupts him. Mira shares that there are 5 heirs, including Kale, vying for the position of the next leader. Kale stands out as the only one without lineage from the 4 major families of Draken. The main idea is that the house that produces the leader shows that all of them are competing to be the top in the academy. To oppose her brothers, Mira says she requires more supporters. This entire explanation leaves Kale completely baffled. Though puzzled, he understands the message. Mira tells him she is determined to hold her ground, and without hesitation, she charges at Kale. She is set on beating Kale, and with her sword, she aims to strike him, but he quickly moves back. Kale sidesteps the blow, but the sword's impact cracks the ground. Mira isn't ready to back down. She rises once more to charge at Kale. She swings her sword wildly and with impressive strength, leaving the onlookers in awe. They praise Mira for her skill with the sword, even though it's just a practice blade. Feeling the crowd's excitement, she ramps up her attacks on Kale, but Kale just jumps out of the way. In the arena, she skillfully avoided each of her attacks. Meanwhile, the crowd was amazed by Mira's strength, knowing she was the daughter of the family leader. They believe Mira will complete the match on schedule. Meanwhile, Mira is growing frustrated because Kale just keeps leaping to avoid her hits. Kale barely tries to avoid Mira's strikes, making her wonder why she can't hit him. He praises Mira for her speed, recognizing her talent. The method she's using seems impressive. Kale even mentions that she's outshining typical one-star fighters. Mira gets angry and yells at Kale, urging him to stop talking and start fighting. Since this is exactly what Mira wants, Kale agrees. He wanted her to feel his power. Kale swiftly avoided her attack and landed a punch on her chest. The blow hits her hard, making her spit out blood. Mira drops to her knees, racked with pain, while the other students watch. In agony, Mira gazes up at Kale and questions why she can't seem to strike him, even though she believes she's far superior. Kale acknowledges that she is quicker than many one-star warriors he has encountered, but he reminds her that she is still just a one-star fighter. Mira counters, pointing out that Kale is also a one-star. Kale responds by saying he can effortlessly predict her actions by observing her breathing, the slight movements of her muscles, and the way her eyes change. Moreover, he has much more experience than she does. Kale talks down to Mira so much that she has to stand up again. Fueled by anger, she rushes at him with her sword, determined to strike, but Kale swiftly jumps back, avoiding her surprise attack with a graceful leap. Mira is wide open for Kale's strike, and he takes advantage by landing a punch that sent her crashing into the far wall. She slams against it, creating a massive cloud of dust that fills the space. The crowd is stunned when they witness this, questioning whether Mira truly lost. Mira feels thrilled when he sees this and quickly runs back into the arena, praising Kale for his amazing skills. But Kale reminds Mira that the battle isn't finished yet. Kale is amazed that Mira can actually take his hit. As the dust settles, Mira is visible, fighting to rise from her knees despite her bruised body, yet she refuses to surrender. She urges her to quit, warning that things could get even worse. Kale warns Mira to move back, saying that things are about to escalate, and if he gets hurt, Kale won't take the blame. Kale had a feeling about it, and now he sees that Mira has achieved 2 stars. Mira stands up, and a bright energy surrounds her. The crowd quickly realizes that Mira has achieved 2 stars. In the 2-star realm, the user can send out real source energy from their body for combat. This energy is often referred to as aura. Mira feels more powerful now and expresses her gratitude to Kale for encouraging her to achieve 2 stars. Furious, she rushes at Kale, poised to attack. Her sword glows with a golden light, and Kale realizes she has become quicker and more powerful. Kale keeps playing around with her until he underestimates her power, and he ends up with a cut on his face. Mira sees that he's amazed, and she takes the chance to brag about the power of a 2-star. She tells Kale that he's about to encounter the real deal. Thunder Spirit Great Sword Techniques. Kale is thrilled as he will finally experience something new that he hasn't seen before. He is really excited to find out what surprises Mira has in store for him. Mira then turns on her Thunderlight Flash. A move catches Kale off guard before he can react, leaving him stunned and wondering how Mira can control lightning. Kale acknowledges that Mira is pretty wild, but Mira shows no signs of remorse for it. With a grin, Mira fiercely unleashes another move, hitting Kale hard. Kale realizes that Mira's power is overwhelming for him. He understands that his body isn't ready to handle what Mira is dishing out. While he struggles to assess his situation, the onlookers watch in awe. They never thought a 1-star warrior could match Mira. Kale realizes that while Mira's moves are mostly the same, her power has definitely improved. Having 2 stars has given her an incredible surge of strength. Kale can't help but acknowledge that Mira is really impressive, especially since being surrounded by lightning like this was nearly unthinkable 1,000 years ago. As she moves, Kale realizes he could strike back, but he wants to witness her true strength. So, he decides to endure the blows for now. Mira is frustrated that Kale can still smile even though he's in a tough spot. She realizes that Kale is full of confidence and decides to strip him of it. She rushes at him using a quicker and more powerful move that Kale can't escape. Kale sees the blow coming and is slammed into the wall, creating a loud crash that makes everyone around him anxious about how he's. As the dust settles, Kale stands tall, grinning. This infuriates her once more, and she hits him. Another bolt of lightning strikes, forcing him to the ground. Mira rushes in, urging Mira to halt the assault, but Mira stands firm, insisting that Kale is still standing. Mira says she can't quit because it would hurt his pride. She promises to be lenient with Kale if he gives up and pledges his loyalty to her. But Kale stays silent, and Mira notices that despite not being a true-born child, his pride as an L-Dragon is still strong within him. Feeling his arrogance, Mira resolves to give her all in a battle. She unleashes the power of the Thunder Spirit Great Sword Arts, summoning heavenly thunder, and delivers a powerful blow. Kale is stuck in place and takes the full impact of the blow. He gets struck by so much lightning that he cries out in agony. When the assault ends, Kale collapses onto the broken earth, motionless. Mira drives her sword into the earth, thinking the fight is finished. To her astonishment, she hears Kale's voice behind her, claiming he has finally figured it all out. Mira looks back, and to her astonishment, Kale's body is now glowing with sparks, showing that he can harness electricity. This leaves her in shock. She wonders why Kale can use electricity. Kale is surprised too, as he didn't realize this was what they meant by electricity. He strides over to Mira confidently, admitting that he doesn't really understand how he managed it. Still, he had purposely let himself get struck to analyze Mira's strength, and before he realized it, he was already able to use it. Despite his explanation, Mira remains puzzled because Kale's claims seem impossible. All Kale understands is, as Mira struck him with her blows, he kept unleashing his dragon, King's breath. The lightning energy interacted with his breath, causing a surge of lightning to gather within him. Before long, he realized what was happening. Kale explains to Mira that he may not know everything, but he realizes that Mira has a unique body because the great sword art is a skill passed down in families. Kale chooses to believe that her whole clan shares her strength. He has also discovered an important lesson. That source power can be combined with lightning. Kale then mentions that he owes his 2-star achievement to Mira. With that, he assures her that the battle is still ongoing. Mira furiously swings her sword at him, but Kale just grins and unleashes his lightning powers. He then leaps with such speed that he struggles to manage his movements. With the power of lightning coursing through him, Kale's muscles and nerves are energized, boosting his strength. He sees this as a unique ability and believes he will master it quickly. Mira stands on the sidelines, watching the two fight, struggling to keep up. Mira quickly notices that Kale is easily avoiding her attacks. Frustrated, she questions him if he's making fun of her, but he replies that he truly respects her as a worthy opponent. Mira swings her sword wide, hoping to surprise him, but he dodges easily. Realizing it's time to end the fight, he prepares to finish it. Kale says he will come up with a new technique to wrap up the fight, even though it's been a while since he last did something like that. Mira feels puzzled by Kale's words, and Kale clarifies that she heard him right. He plans to develop a new method or unique style. To put it simply, Mira is taken aback, wondering if Kale has secretly learned some fighting skill, but she can't figure out which family taught him. Meanwhile, Kale sees that she is deep in thought and seizes the moment to sprint towards her quickly. Kale strikes her with his latest move, the dragon-slaying skill called Tempest of Thunder. Amidst a surge of lightning, Mira collapses to the ground, and Kale grins, declaring the fight finished. Mira is so hurt that she can't even remain on her knees. She falls hard to the ground, wincing in pain. Mira drags herself to her sword, still in shock over her defeat, determined to outshine her brothers and claim the title of head of the house. As she berates herself, Kale approaches her and says she was actually strong for giving him a challenging fight. Kale shares his passion for discovering new ideas and believes that the battle time is valuable. Grinning, he turns to Mira and asks if they'll have another opportunity to fight again. In fact, he hopes they'll face off once more down the line. But as he says this, Mira is frozen in disbelief and fear. A few hours later, Myra's dad, Jiro, is in a dungeon, effortlessly taking down monsters like they're. His basic dragon fighting skills are powerful enough to wipe out an entire swarm of monsters easily. He's focused on his work when a messenger arrives in the dungeon to share the latest news. He informs Jiro that his daughter, Mira, has reached 2-star status, but Jiro remains unimpressed. The guy tells Jiro that Myra's progress is an impressive achievement for someone her age, and if she keeps it up, she could hit 5 stars before she finishes school. Jiro sets things straight, stating that talent means nothing if it's not applied. He encourages the guy to return with updates once she has truly harnessed her new abilities. At that moment, the guy informs Jiro that Mira just lost a fight, and Jiro thinks she must have faced an older opponent. The messenger reveals that Mira was defeated by his secret son, Kale. Jiro recalls Kale due to the woman who gave him life. Jiro acknowledges that Kale's mom had real talent, but he understands that his own mother passed away long before he came into the world. He can't help but think about how he gained the skills that helped him beat a 2-star. The messenger adds that the best part is that Kale reached 2-star all by himself. He had no one to guide him, but he continued to move ahead. After learning this, Jiro decides it's time to start the first test. The guy is surprised by this news and attempts to remind Jiro that it's too soon, but Jiro isn't bothered by it. He believes that death treats everyone the same, and only the strong can endure. Jiro claims that those who can't make it through the first challenge are worthless and have no future ahead of them. The officer must obey his boss's command. Jiro surprises everyone by giving even more shocking instructions, telling the officer to call for Yuna. He has to ask once more, and Jiro agrees, stating that he wants Yuna to lead the trial. Noting that Kale is quite an intriguing kid, the officer accepts the request and departs. As he moves forward, Jiro finally reveals his eagerness to discover what Kale has planned for him. Soon after, Kale and the other students begin their training. Kale is ignoring the teacher's directions and instead is busy lifting rocks that are 5 times bigger than him. He is focused on improving his breathing skills, while the other kids are mastering the dragon's breath technique. He finds the technique easy and believes kids can learn it too. Thorn quickly sees that Kale is following a different training routine and asks him if he doesn't want to train with the group. Kale claims he doesn't get his point of view, and Thorn brings up the training in dragon fighting skill. Kale coolly responds that he already knows it, leaving Thorn stunned. Thorn disputes this, insisting they just covered it moments ago, so it can't be true. He has already gotten the hang of it. Kale then chooses to teach him about his ether flow and how uneven it is. Kale lets go of the big rock he's been balancing on his head and tells Thorn to face away. Thorn obeys, and Kale strikes him. From behind, a strong wave of ether energy flows into him. Kale explains to Thorn that this is the right way to channel it. Thorn quickly notices the change and expresses his gratitude to Kale for his assistance. At that moment, it hits Thorn that Kale has truly mastered it, but Kale is frustrated that Thorn ever questioned. Thorn swiftly sets things straight, explaining to Kale that he has it all wrong. He shares that his only teacher has been his father, and that's the reason for the confusion. He has always needed to motivate himself. Still, Kale is already powerful enough to take down Mira by himself. Thorn thinks that the dragon fighting skills are easy and dull for Kale, but Kale disagrees. He points out that the stability is what matters. It's really impressive. At one point, his sons dismissed dragon combat arts, saying it was too complicated and hard to master. Despite its complexity, it is a powerful martial art that includes various fighting styles. Kale has recently gained a new ability after his battle with Mira. The move he used to defeat the dragon is actually his ultimate form, and Kale is eager to explore how this technique has improved. Time passed. Kale realizes it's time to get back to physical training, as he has mastered all he can from dragon fighting techniques. Out of the blue, Thorn asks Kale for a big favor. He wants him to train him. Thorn shares his goal of becoming really strong, even though he knows it won't be easy. To his surprise, Kale admits he's ready to take it on because he views Thorn as someone who can learn. Thorn is still enjoying his victory when he hears a familiar voice. From the back, Mira called out to Kale, asking him to train her as well. Though she feels a bit shy about it, she can't deny that Kale is remarkable for having beaten her. Mira praises Kale's skills and confesses that her confidence took a hit during their game. Kale is taken aback by her unexpected request, and Mira mentions that she wants to improve her strength to outdo both her brothers and Kale. Mira sets aside her pride and asks Kale to help her become stronger. Kale pauses to consider his response, causing Mira to feel anxious. Mira is excited to see that Kale is willing to train her, especially since he is recognized as the leader. Mira tells him she's ready for training, and he assures her that he's okay with it. However, he expresses concern about her recovery from their previous battle. Mira then shares that she took a healing potion, so she's feeling good now. Kale is amazed by the crazy effects of the potion. Thorn mentions that Mira is quite remarkable, not just because she used a healing potion. Kale nods in agreement, noting that we now live in a time where anything can happen. Mira admits that without the potion, she would have been stuck in bed for an entire month. She asks Kale once more if he's ready to train her, and Kale confidently replies that he never turns down a keen young talent. Thor and Mira are surprised by his choice of words, considering he's young like them too. Kale anxiously slips by the topic to dodge more questions from the pair. Kale asks Mira if she's really okay with him being her trainer, considering he was the one who hurt her before. Mira responds that it doesn't bother her because she doesn't care about status or pride. She's determined to do whatever it takes to grow stronger and take the lead for herself. Kale questions her about her strong desire to lead the family, pointing out that she had been saying the same thing during their argument. Mira admits that if she doesn't become the head of the family, her only option left is to get married. When it comes to marriage, it's clear that it will be a political match. She'll likely end up marrying a cousin or someone she has never met before. Kale is taken aback by this news, and Mira clarifies that the Draken bloodline is highly sought after, particularly by the 4 major houses. She mentions that their true power comes from something quite special, which is why they plan to use the women however they want. Kale explodes in anger upon hearing this, unable to fathom that the family would treat a person like livestock. He curses. He will be the one to stop the negative culture and habits. Just then, the teacher points out that there's a new instructor in the area. He informs them that the instructor showed up despite being quite busy. The red-haired woman suddenly shows up and reaches for Myra's ear, but Mira quickly steps back just in time. The woman praises Myra's quick reflexes, saying they are impressive. Thorn shakes with fear and clutches Kale, unable to sense her presence. The instructors finally reveal the enigmatic woman before them as Yuna. Yuna, a member of the Black Dragon Corps, greets the students with a smile, expressing how happy she is to meet them. She observes that Kale seems unfazed and points it out. Kale crushes her confidence, saying there's nothing surprising about it. But then he grins and tells Yuna that she has a fascinating talent. Yuna now sees why the family leader has been worried. Kale is much more fascinated by Yuna's martial arts than her frustrating ability to hide. He observes the energy in her legs and understands that he hasn't witnessed anything like it before. Kale can't wait to connect with Yuna since she seems genuinely captivating. Yuna teams up with the other teachers to remind the students to behave well. The head teacher also points out that Yuna is a 6-star dragon and encourages the students to listen closely. The other students are quaking in their boots from Yuna's incredible strength, but Kale remains unfazed. They eagerly ask Yuna if she will share her abilities with them, and she responds. But she informs them that they must first complete her test. The students freak out upon hearing about the test, but Yuna calms them down by saying it's a simple one. She pulls out a clear crystal ball and tells them they must take it and then stay on Poison Dragon Mountain for an entire month. This triggers another surge of fear among the students, but Kale stays composed as always. He remembers that it has been a while since he last heard the name. The Poison Dragon Mountain is an island filled with many poisonous creatures. Even the plants there are so deadly that just touching one can kill an average person instantly. Kale recalls training there in a previous life. He wonders if the mountain is manageable for the kids. Yuna shares that anyone who disappears or shatters their crystal orb during the challenge will be disqualified right away. A student asks what happens if they don't pass the test, and Yuna tells them they will be expelled right away. Regarding the poison, she explains that they can manage their breathing using the dragon's breath method. She promises that they will be okay as long as they protect their orb, almost like a warning. Monsters lurk on the mountain, and Yuna responds coolly that it's their job to take them down. It's like a survival challenge. Make it through a month or face the consequences. The students begin to feel anxious, but Yuna encourages them to relax since they have 5 days until the test. During these 5 days, they need to pick and master one of House Draken's basic martial arts to prepare for their time on the mountain. She tells them that once they learn a fighting style, staying alive will be much simpler. However, she warns them that if they don't master it in 5 days, she won't be responsible for the consequences. A student wonders if Yuna will come to their aid if they're in trouble, but she replies firmly that they have to handle it themselves. Yuna thinks the test is a breeze and feels confident they can pass it easily. Kale, on the other hand, is taken aback by what he's hearing and starts to question everything. If the family has truly gotten lost in their own troubles, Yuna then invites them to come up and choose which guide they would like to use. Thorn is unsure about his choice, and Kale encourages him to choose the spear guide. He reminds Thorn that he used a spear before. Upon hearing about the entrance exam, Thorn decides what to do. Kale sees that Nox is unsure about her choice, so he advises her to choose the axe manual. Nox is taken aback and asks Kale why she should choose the axe manual. Kale walks off, explaining that it will address what she needs to improve. Taking Kale's suggestion, she chooses to follow it. After everyone selects their preferences, Yuna instructs them to practice for the next few days. Yuna tells them that if they don't do this, it will only lead to certain death. Out of the blue, Yuna introduces an exciting twist. She informs them that during the test, older students from the main building will attempt to snatch their crystal orbs. The older students coming in have one task: to take their orbs. Yuna tries to reassure everyone by saying there are more of them, so they'll be okay. Thorn nearly loses his mind when he understands that they will be battling both monsters and older students at once. Nox acknowledges that she will have a tough time competing against the upperclassmen, as they all have 2 stars or more. Because of this challenge, she thinks many students might not make it through the test. Kale supports Nox's idea, but suggests that they should team up in pairs or threes if they feel overwhelmed. He points out that there's no rule stopping them from joining forces against the seniors. Thorn then inquires about Kale's plans, and Kale shares that he wants to go alone since it's more enjoyable that way. Nox first thinks about opposing this, but then it hits him that Kale is that guy, and he might really have what it takes. Kale grins as he walks away, hinting that they should grab a bite to eat. 5 days later, the students meet at the base of the mountain, all armed and ready. Yuna is here too, and she enjoys the weather. It's just right for the test. After she finishes boasting, she announces that the test has begun. As always, Thorn feels anxious and questions whether it's acceptable to partner with Nox, given that he comes from a common background. He starts to question himself when he hears another person who feels the same way. Lyra said she is also part of Nox's group. Another guy named Aaron will be joining the group. They're all regular folks. Nox then tells the three of them that she doesn't care about social status. She invited them because of their incredible skills. Thorn is thrilled to be chosen and promises Nox that he will give it his all. The other two promise her that they will meet her expectations. Meanwhile, Kale stays true to himself. He shares his thoughts on working alone. Kale praises his team, highlighting their strength and unity. Kale notices their skills and understands that she has brought together the best students in the class. He admires her keen ability to spot talent. Kale tells Thorn not to stress because his team is nearly unbeatable. Yuna is taken aback to find the students working in groups. She praises their approach, especially since many of them haven't fully grasped the material yet. They became skilled with their weapons. After ensuring that everyone has their crystal orbs, she tells them their task is to stay alive for a month while holding onto the orb. She informs them that if they have the orb by the end of the month, they've successfully completed the test. Then she reveals another surprising detail. All the orbs look the same. This means they can take each other's orbs. Yuna warns them that as soon as they get comfortable on the mountain, the older students will come in to try to grab them. The older students instill a feeling of fear in the younger ones, claiming that many haven't even earned a single star, suggesting that the challenges ahead will be simple. After Yuna finishes her explanation, she urges the students to hurry up. They race into the woods, and as they go, it seems to turn back to remind Kale that he needs to come back safe. Kale echoes the same sentiment to her. As everyone hurries into the forest, Kale hangs back. Yuna turns to him and asks if he's coming along. Kale answers that he isn't feeling anxious at all. As the crowd hurries forward, Kale takes his time and walks into the forest. Once they leave, the head instructor turns to Yuna and asks if she believes the kids will manage, as the exam seems overwhelming for where they are right now. They claim to be new students with only basic knowledge, but their fighting skills are quite poor. Yuna responds, assuring them that everything will be okay. She acknowledges that many monsters live in the mountain, but she believes they aren't very powerful. Yuna tells the teacher that the students are staying close, which should help them out. But she has something unusual that she intends to let loose in the woods later. The teacher catches this and asks her what she meant, but she brushes it off, claiming it's nothing. Yuna then faces the older students and tells them to head out as well. The seniors quickly follow, excited and ready to challenge their younger peers. Yuna grins and points an arrow at Kale. He narrowly avoids it, and the arrow sticks into a tree nearby. Nice try, Kale mocks, grinning. The older kids look at each other, taken aback by his boldness. Show us what you can do. One of them dares, moving closer. He aimed an arrow at him, but he caught it effortlessly. Kale burst into wild laughter, telling the older students that he had been looking forward to their arrival. Yuna feels a chill run through her as she hears this, completely caught off guard. She's still trying to understand what's unfolding before her when Kale rushes over, grinning widely, resembling a frightening figure from a horror film. A week later, Nox and her team are facing off against tree frogs. Thanks to their careful teamwork, they managed to catch a lot of frogs, and Nox praises her crew, saying they're doing an excellent job. Meanwhile, the team is astonished by Nox's fierce determination, as she has been incredibly effective. Nox tells them not to be shocked since she's already a 2-star expert, and a bunch of tree frogs are no big deal for her. She's also amazed at how much stronger they have all become since the tests began a week ago. Lyra and Aaron have both risen to stardom during this time. They are joyful and credit all their success to Nox, showering her with compliments. Thorn, however, hasn't earned a star yet, and he looks downcast. His teammate, he sees this and reassures him that he's not alone in getting stronger. They remind him that there's no need to hurry, and Thorn accepts their support with a slight smile. Nox points out that taking down the frogs without a star is an amazing achievement. She also mentions that Thorn practiced with Kale before the test, which has made his spear skills perfect. Nox assures him that it won't be long before he achieves his goal. As it's starting to get dark, Nox recommends they head back to base. It's risky for them to be out in the dark. When they get to the base, they find an unexpected guest. An older student is there, ready to greet them. As soon as they see him, they all take up defensive stances. Nox questions him, asking if he has come to take their crystal ore. He explains that this is the sole purpose of his presence. Nox understands that they have finally met an older student. He's a 2-star. Nox advises him to turn back, saying he can't take them all on alone, but he tells her she's mistaken in her thinking. 3 other upperclassmen, each with 1 star, emerge from behind, encircling the team. The guy teases Nox, saying she may be tough, but she can't defeat them while shielding the losers who claim to be her teammates. He tells her to quit, but Nox stands firm, and they both rush at each other. Nox urges everyone to be careful while she handles the 2-star guy. Meanwhile, a tough fight breaks out between the rest of the team and the older students. The older students pressure the team to hand over their crystals quietly, but everyone stands firm and refuses. Thorn is up against one of the toughest 1-stars around, and he begins to think about his next move. Memories of his talk with Kale come rushing back to him. He turns to Kale and asks what to do when up against a strong rival. Kale shatters his hopes and tells him to quit trying. Thorn is taken aback, and Kale explains that it's only logical, as he stands no chance against a 3-star opponent, or even a 4-star on his own. Still, he makes it clear that he could have a small chance if he's facing a 1-star opponent. While everyone is concentrating on the test, Kale informs Thorn that the 2 most powerful monsters on the mountain are called stars. Moreover, the older students they'll be up against are only 2-star fighters at most. With that in mind, Kale informs Thorn that he has a decent shot. Kale explains to Thorn that the strategy is quite simple. He mentions that all he has to do is wait. An opportunity arises, leaving Thorn puzzled. Kale claims he can turn the fight to his advantage against a 1-star opponent. Thorn wonders how he can spot an opportunity, and Kale replies that he just needs to keep pushing through. Kale clarifies that his only option is to hang in there until the opponent makes a mistake. Thorn is shocked by this, and Kale points out that he's facing a tougher rival, meaning he can't expect to find an opportunity on his own. Kale insists that he must. He must hold on, even if it feels like he's at the end, because not doing so means he has no hope. Kale tells him that at his current strength, he can withstand an opponent as powerful as Hoshi. Thorn doubts everything, including Kale. Kale encourages him to believe in himself to make it happen. Kale also advises him not to stress too much. He assures him that he doesn't have to worry about searching for an opening, as his opponent will create one when the moment is right. Now, he has the opportunity to strike with his spear. As Thorn confronts a tougher rival, Kale's voice rings in his mind. He acknowledges his own weakness, but knows he must hold on and look for a chance to act. After several unsuccessful attempts to break through, Thorn rival grows annoyed and jumps high, trying to hit him from above. This creates the perfect chance Thorn has been looking for, and he swiftly counters with a powerful strike. He punches the guy to knock him out. The guy is stunned, unable to believe what he's seeing, while Thorn joins the group of 1-star warriors. Hoshi is delivering a tough blow to her rival, even though he's also a 2-star player. Hoshi can achieve this because she learned sword skills that Kale suggested. She defeats her opponent, taking him down for threatening her and her team. After helping the guy, Hoshi dashes back to her team and discovers that they have also triumphed in their own fights. The team cheers and gives a shout-out to Thorn for earning his 1st star. He feels grateful for their support and shares that he's really thrilled. Hoshi believes they have a stronger chance against tougher rivals now that every team member has become a standout. After the fight, Hoshi wonders how Kale is handling things. Meanwhile, Kale is taking on the upperclassmen with ease, making them feel like they're being pounded like a drum. Those who manage to get away see him as a frightening beast.